Sweden is one of the top producers of heavy metal per capita in the world. You might have heard about Ghost, or Sabaton, or In Flames, but there's so much more. This is gonna be a pretty unusual video. I'm gonna talk about the history of Swedish heavy metal, but also about Swedish rock bands in general. And I'm gonna do it at Sweden Rock Festival, the biggest rock festival in Sweden. Which means that I'll be drunk constantly while recording this. But then again, so will everyone else. Don't say I didn't warn you. Anyway, let's get started. Let's dive into the history of Swedish heavy metal. You probably heard Swedish heavy metal at some point. Amon Amarth is world famous for Viking-inspired melodic death metal. And who hasn't heard of Sabaton with their war-themed historical power metal? And of course Ghost, probably the biggest recent Swedish metal band. If you're a little bit older, then you probably listened to Europe during the 1980s. I mean, everyone knows the Final Countdown, right? It's the final countdown, and so on. You might start to object at this point. That's not heavy metal, rah rah rah, you don't know what you're talking about. That's completely right, I'm not an expert and I rarely know what I'm talking about. But I can promise you that I've listened to a lot of music, from pop and rock to punk and melodic heavy metal and thrash metal and a lot more. And I'm not gonna limit this video to just quote-unquote pure heavy metal bands. I'm gonna go all over the place. So let's start at the beginning. Let's go back to the 1970s and the early days of Swedish rock bands. November was a band from Stockholm that formed in 1969, and they're sometimes called the first Swedish heavy metal band. They were inspired by bands like Uriah Heep and Led Zeppelin, and they played fast and furious rock music. Fast for the 1970s, that is. These days it sounds very mellow and pretty similar to prog music, progressive left-wing music that was popular in Sweden in the 60s and the 70s. There were a couple of other notable early bands, like Alexander Lukas and Neon Rose. And of course Heavy Load, which probably is more deserving of the title of Sweden's first heavy metal band. They formed in 1978, and their music was much more in line with hard rock and heavy metal rather than leaning towards prog. But Sweden was still pretty unknown when it comes to metal music back then. That all changed in the 1980s though. The 1970s was a strange time in Sweden. It was a transition period from an extremely left-wing and socialist society to something more polarized. The economy took a downturn and there were lots of different political movements. The Green Wave started in the 1970s, for example, with many young people looking for a quieter way of life outside the city. Towards the end of the 1970s, there was also a shift towards a more individualized and commercial society. And then, you know, all about the 1980s. Glitz and glamour, puffed up hair, and neon-colored clothes everywhere. And Swedish rock music was about to take the world by storm. What do you think about Sweden Rock?
It's the best fucking festival in Sweden.
Isn't it? It's awesome!
Yes.
Have you come here many times?
Yes, since 2005.
Bloody hell, that's I can't count that high.
No.
So you look forward to Maiden tonight?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Awesome.
a saxon.
Do you look forward to any other band?
Sabotage.
Yeah, that's tomorrow, right?
And it is today.
Oh, wow, everything today.
Yes.
So you can just get drunk after this.
I'm drunk now.
Bathory was formed in 1983, and they set the foundation for both Swedish death metal and Norwegian black metal. Well, maybe not all by themselves, but they were one of the key inspirations. Speaking of black metal, Venom is playing at Sweden Rock Festival this year, and they famously created the term black metal. but their music has nothing to do with the genre as we know it today. Candlemass were formed in 1984 in Upplands Väsby, north of Stockholm, and they created the Swedish doom metal genre. There was also a band called 220 Volts that was formed in 1980. I can't help but think that it's a pun on AC/DC, but I don't know anything about the band itself. I've never listened to them. Either way, you can tell that there was a lot of experimentation going on. Death metal, doom metal, lots of different types of metal was created. But I guess that we shouldn't forget about hard rock, because that's where Sweden really took its place in music history. Treat was a Swedish hard rock band that was formed in 1981, and they're actually playing this year at Sweden Rock Festival. I'm not exactly a super fan of them, but I'm still gonna watch them. If nothing else, to hear World of Promises live. Another band that's playing at Sweden Rock Festival is Sha-Boom, a Swedish-Norwegian band actually, who had a massive hit in 1988 with the song ROCK. I totally understand if you haven't heard either of those bands. They weren't really hits internationally, but they were really big in Sweden. A band that you definitely have heard of though is Europe. They became a massive success in the mid-1980s, and the Final Countdown is still played all over the world to this very day. That song topped the chart in 25 countries, and they sold millions and millions of albums. But in the 1990s, there were other bands that would make Sweden a well-known country when it comes to metal music. The metal scene in Sweden was changing in the 1990s. Fewer people wanted to listen to glam or thrash or classic heavy metal, and grunge was also in decline. Some people listened to black metal, but it was very niche and not very common. Bathory was still going strong in the 1990s, and they came from Stockholm. Another band from Stockholm was the death metal band Entombed. Bathory may have been first, but for me at least, Entombed was the band that defined the Stockholm death metal sound. Dismember was also another popular band from Stockholm. But something was happening 500 kilometers to the west of Stockholm, in the city of Gothenburg. A melodic kind of death metal was emerging around that area, and it became known as the Gothenburg sound. Bands like At the Gates, Dark Tranquility, and most importantly In Flames became super popular in the 1990s. In 1995, the three bands released 3 landmark albums, all within 3 months of each other, and that defined the Gothenburg sound. Slaughter of the Soul by At the Gates, The Gallery by Dark Tranquility, and The Jester's Race by In Flames. These bands might not be exactly as popular as Europe, but they still sold millions of albums. And they're still super popular today. I love that costume! How come you're at Sweden Rock Festival?
I love metal. Metal is my life. I am Rulle, the Dragon Warden, from Metal Dragon.
The Dragon Warden. It sounds like an important job.
I would say it's the most important job of all, because I guard and protect the dragons!
So what is Metal Dragon?
Metal Dragon is a Swedish awesome metal band. And we have a new single out now, Brothers of Metal. Woo! And there are more songs to come.
And more things as well, right?
Beer as well. On the 8th of June, the Metal Dragon beer will be released to the world for all to see and enjoy.
Woo! Impressive stuff. And did I hear something about a movie as well?
There is a movie coming out too in September. A feature film.
You have everything. It's a franchise. It's a multiverse.
It will be, I hope. We'll see. One thing at a time. But for now, metal!
I also need to mention another band from the 1990s, Meshuggah. They play a kind of complicated technical metal that's influenced by jazz and by math. The rhythms are complex and it's not really something I enjoy listening to. But the guitarist of my old band always used to go on and on about how impressive Fredrik Tordendal is. He's the lead guitarist of Meshuggah, so yeah, I guess I have to give them a special mention. I think that they're still playing, so you can actually catch them live if you want to experience some more extreme Swedish metal. I mentioned a couple of bands playing at Sweden Rock Festival this year, but there's a lot more. There's a lot of Swedish bands, Candlemass for example, and Clawfinger, and Yngwie Malmsteen. I totally forgot to mention Yngwie Malmsteen before during the 1980s segments. He was born in Stockholm, of course with a different name, and he plays a neoclassical style of heavy metal. People are divided about him. He's always been successful and skilled, but he's never topped any charts. He's an amazing guitar player, but he doesn't really stir the general public's imagination. He's basically making music that other musicians can admire, but maybe not always music that everyone can really enjoy. Okay, I said that this video was gonna be all about Swedish bands, but I have to talk a bit about the lineup of this festival. I used to visit Sweden Rock Festival in the early 2000s, and then again in 2016 when I saw Queen, obviously without Freddie Mercury. But I got a strange urge to return to Sweden Rock Festival this year. There are bands like The Offspring and Joan Jett and Korslagda Kyrkar. You also have bands like Black Label Society, Elven King and Volbeat. Oh, and Iron Maiden. Gotta love some good old galloping rock. And also Halloween, Helicopters, Overkill and Majestica. But there's one band in particular that made me decide to come here. It's not one of these massive heavy metal bands that have been playing forever, and it's not a small obscure Swedish band either. Nope, the band that got me here was Baby Metal.
Are you ready?
How you guys doing?
No! Not now, man! Not now!
The best people at Sweden Rock!
Yeah! Best people! Not him! Okay, woohoo! Woohoo!
I'm getting molested! Sweden Rock have their own TV station. I have a feeling that it's a little bit better quality than what I'm doing. Sometimes you just don't have to add any commentary. There's nothing I could say that would make this any more funnier or suspect than it already is. It's important to eat healthy during Sweden Rock Festival, so of course I'm having a cold bulle. And yeah, no, this is not healthy. But then again, drinking for 4 days isn't healthy either. Have you watched the Dune movies? This is how the Gom Jabbar should have looked.
3, 2, 1. Och så där dricker man 95.
Så gott! Så gott!
En till!
I've talked about the 1970s and the 80s and the 90s, but what about the 2000s? In Flames were still hot in the 2000s, pun intended, and Dark Tranquility too. And even more bands started to emerge, Opeth with some more progressive elements, for example, and Amon Amarth with their melodic Viking metal. The name is Sindarin for Mount Doom, by the way. You know, Sindarin, one of the elven languages in Lord of the Rings. Gotta love fantasy mixed with metal. Arch Enemy also started to become a big name in death metal in the 2000s. Or as some like to call them, Arch Enema. Sorry, just kidding, just kidding. Katatonia was also releasing some albums in the death or possibly doom genre, and Dark Funeral brought a bit of black metal to Sweden. I saw Dark Funeral at the now long since gone Hultsfredsfestivalen in the late 90s, and I remember laughing when they had pig heads on stakes and growled "Satan har kommit till jorden!" Yeah, sorry not sorry, black metal just isn't my genre. We're starting to get to modern times now, and Sweden's metal scene continued to evolve in the 2010s. At the Gates disbanded in 1996, but they reunited and released a lot of music in the 2010s. Unfortunately, their lead singer died in 2025, so yeah, a tragic end to that band. But there were other bands that became well known in the 2010s, like Sabaton. If you haven't listened to Sabaton, it's all about war and history and power metal choruses. I love it. And of course, Ghost became super famous in the 2010s, and they still are today. Some people might complain that I'm including Ghost in this video about Swedish heavy metal. They have the metal aesthetic, but I guess that they play a sort of generic hard rock instead. But then again, I've talked about Europe and Treat and Sha-Boom in this video, so yeah, I'm not really sticking to any genres. And some people might complain that I haven't mentioned Avatar or Soilwork or Watain or tons of other bands. Look, I have to confess, I'm not a true metal geek. I love a lot of it, but I also love punk rock, J-pop, opera, and tons of other genres. My goal isn't to give you the best history lesson ever. It's to give you a fun look at the evolution of Swedish rock bands, while I also show off Sweden Rock Festival. This is basically an introduction to Swedish bands, in case you haven't heard of them, and a look at Sweden Rock Festival, in case you're curious what it's like here. And speaking of that, let's talk a bit more about the festival. You can attend Sweden Rock Festival during 1 day, 3 days, or 4 days. The cost for a 4-day ticket is 4,000 Swedish kronor, 400 euros, so it's not a cheap festival. But it's a very well-arranged festival, and people say that it's one of the few festivals that actually turns a profit. The visitors are loyal, and the festival has a clear focus. They deliver rock music and nothing else. Well, almost nothing else. Sure, this year you could see Magnus Uggla at the festival, but I think that's okay. He's basically a Swedish icon, even if he plays pop. If you want to attend the festival, the biggest problem is where you're gonna stay. There are 40,000 people at the festival, and most of them want to sleep pretty comfortably. So all the cabins and houses are rented out far in advance, and if you're late to the party, or a cheap bastard like me, then you have to stay in a tent. You could also stay in a house further away from the festival and take a taxi to and from the place every day. But yeah, that's gonna cost a bit, and then you also lose out on experiencing the camp life. All the best and the worst parties happen at the campsite. So if you want the proper Sweden rock experience, you have to stay at the campsite. It's loud, it's dirty, it's filthy, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Do you have something to say about Sweden rock?
I want to say it's like the best fucking festival ever. Best week, best. I'm here with my girlfriend from Croatia. She's never been to a concert before, and I'm starting her off with Sweden Rock Festival. And the most amazing thing is that yesterday, I got a bit drunk, you know? She drank 3 beers.
What? Are you drunk at Sweden Rock Festival? What is this? The horror!
I know. But the thing is, like, she drank only 3 beers, and she wants to throw up. She's so hungover. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nothing happened. And she's like, how is this fair?
But you know, that's the festival spirit. You get into a happy mood and you can drink all you want.
Exactly. You just go for it. And the funny thing is that we have stopped drinking for a while. We don't drink anymore. We thought, okay, this week we just go for it, enjoy. And I just have a little fun, you know?
Oh, nice.
Hey, best festival ever. You're the best, man.
Oh, thank you so much. Hope you're having an awesome time the rest of the days.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to go throw up now.
And that's about it for this look at the history of Swedish heavy metal and what's happening at Sweden Rock Festival 2026. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe, but most importantly, have a great day.